When you first load up the game, you're taken to the main menu. Right now what you're seeing is our redesigned main menu after Alpha 2. In Alpha 2, we had a main menu that featured a dark room with some candles or some lights that were kind of dim, and then there was a table, and on that table was a map with some pieces on it, kind of like little troop figures, and then there's a scroll. And this is important when we get to the collection screen because you'll see remnants of our old main menu on that screen. What we've done with the redesigned main menu is we've changed the background so it's no longer in this dark room, but instead it's an animated background like with a fantasy setting. And that's because a lot of players said that they felt the old main menu design was claustrophobic, and they also felt that we had all these like illustrative environment artworks that we're not really utilizing in the game. And so it made us realize that we weren't really selling the idea of being in a fantasy world. We weren't really selling the world of Zems to these players through any of our menus. And so we want to move away from that. If I hit the collection screen here, you can see remnants of that old main menu. You can see down here there's like the map like along the edges here, and then you see the scroll here. Now the idea behind that scroll was it was a magical scroll, and in that scroll you had all your spells, or in our case all your cards. And as you can see here, when I click the left and right buttons, you can see the scroll kind of move. It's kind of like unrolling your scroll more to get to some of your more expensive spells later on. Of course, here you see the cards are changing color. We have several colors in the game. We use them to organize the cards into sort of different themes. So white cards are a lot more aggressive, whereas blue cards have more to do with like weather effects. Now right now I have this tab up here selected. This tab basically shows all the cards in your collection. But if you want to only see cards from a specific color, you can click that tab. We also have a heroes tab if you only want to see the heroes in the game. We have some additional filtering options, like you can select to only see follower cards, spell cards, or construct cards. You can also filter by cost, so if you want to see cards that cost 0, of course there aren't any, cards that cost 1, 2, 3, etc. Now in this specific case, I'm looking at white cards that are spells that cost 3. And if I want to search by card, so in this case I'm looking for white cards that are followers of any cost, and if I want to find the ones with the word Irulian in their name, then I can type this down here and it will show all the white followers with the word Irulian and of any cost. And of course I can filter by cost here if I only want to see cards that cost 2 that meet all these other criteria. So we have a lot of searching and filtering capability, and it's essentially the same filtering capabilities you have in Hearthstone, Duelist, and many other collectible card games. We want to keep these features in the new collection screen redesign. Now one thing that we're missing here that those games have is a crafting options. We call it alchemy, so instead of a crafting button, we'd want an alchemy button. By the way, these little buttons here that are remnants from the main menu, they appear squished here, and that's mostly because I'm playing this in the editor, and so it kind of pushes these up. But we want to have basically an alchemy button here that would show you all the cards available in the entire game. You would still have all these filtering options that if you want to search for a specific card. And of course, the cards that you don't have or cards that aren't in your collection would be grayed out. And so the idea behind the crafting option, or the alchemy screen as I call it, is it will allow you to craft cards that you don't have. Now the third element of the collection screen, so there's 3 elements. There's collection, which shows all the cards that you have, which is what we're looking at right now. There's crafting, or alchemy as I call it, which would show you all the cards in the game, not just the ones that you have, and then lets you craft the ones that you want. And then the third one is deck building. To build a deck, you just click on one of these deck slots here, and you'll notice some of these got grayed out, and that's because you can only have maximum of 3 copies of a card in your deck. So if we have 3 Terror Hounds already in the deck, we can't add anymore. It says deck limit 3. You'll also notice there's an exclamation mark up here. That means the deck is not legal. It's not legal because we don't have a hero assigned and because there's only 39 cards in it and you have to have 40. If I click the back button, you'll get an error message. Now, of course, we haven't implemented the actual error message text here, but basically you're given the option to either fix the deck, which takes you back to the deck editing screen, or you can hit OK, which takes you back to the collection screen. Now your deck is still saved here, but you see the 2 X's here, that means it's not legal. And so your deck is still saved even if it's not legal, you just can't play with it. So we go back to the collection screen. If we want to add a card to our deck, well, we just click on a card and you'll see that it slides in. So if I click on a card over here or a tab over here, it removes the card from the deck. And if I want to add the card to the deck, then I just click it in the collection screen area, and you'll notice that it slides in. You can, if you add a card that, or if you remove a card that has multiple copies, it just kind of slides out like that. I can click and make them slide back in, or I can add in more, just slide in. But let's go ahead and make this deck legal. I need to select the hero. So if I go over here, turn off the followers tab, or the followers filter, and I can see all the heroes. Or I can just go to white since I don't have any of these turned on, and I should be able to see the heroes here somewhere in here. Oh, I guess not. Sorry, I guess we don't have that implemented. White will not show the white heroes. I actually have to be on this tab. But once I add a hero and the deck is legal, then the exclamation mark changes to a green check mark. If I hover over the deck name, which by the way, if I want to change it, I just click here and I can just type something else. And that changes the name. But if you hover over the deck name, you can see the distribution of cards based on their cost. So I have 5 cards in my deck that cost 1, 12 cards that cost 2, 13 that cost 3, and so on. And then if I hit back, if the deck is legal and I hit back, then nothing happens. It just takes me back to the collection screen. You see an image of the hero here, and then you see the 2 colors of the deck. Now, one thing I want to mention about the deck building section, we don't have a button that I really want. In a lot of card games, people like to share their decks, and so what they do is they basically take a picture of what you see here. I mean, they don't take a picture of the card / cost distribution. They just take a picture of this like area right here. That's the deck list, and they share that. And I want to add that feature to the game, or I want that to be implemented in game. So we need a little button that would automatically take a picture of this whenever it's clicked. It could be like a picture of like a camera, or it could be like share or something like that. But we need something that indicates that it's going to grab a snap of this and then save it somewhere so that it can be shared. So that's an additional thing we need to add. The last thing I want to say here is that our tabs up here, we have a purple tab here, but we're actually going to remove the color purple from the game. So right now we have only white and blue cards implemented, but in the final game we want to have white, green, yellow, blue, not purple. We want to remove this. We're going to have red, and then we're going to have a neutral color, or a neutral tab. And that's partly because of colorblind issues. We want to avoid purple and red both being in the game because they're kind of similar, and people who are colorblind might have issues with that. And so we just want to slide red over, and then we want to have a tab over here that says neutral. And I think, yeah, that covers everything in our collection screen, as well as additional features that we want to add. Last thing I want to say is we want to keep all this functionality here, but we want to clean it up a little bit. So since we're moving to a more immersive background kind of feel, we obviously want to get rid of like the scroll idea, and maybe the dark shading here, maybe like shrink this down a little bit. That way the background becomes a lot more prominent, or at least it has more impact because it's not being covered up by all this UI stuff. Of course, we still want the UI elements here. We just want to make them more minimalist, so that way the background becomes more pronounced, if that makes sense. But yeah, that covers our collection screen.